As is the case every season, winter 2017 brought with it a bunch of new anime for us to enjoy. There were some great looking sequels that were being hyped up at the time, like the new season of Blue Exorcist, as well as sequels to shows that probably didn't deserve it, like the Chaos Head sequel. There were also several new series that were getting attention from the anime community. This included a new anime original work by Studio Gohans, known as Handshakers. Now, as a longtime fan of the K series, which is another original work by Studio Gohans, I was pretty hyped for the show to start. And it was pretty clear from the word go, from the time the first promotional art broke, that Gohans was trying to piggyback on K's success. The animation was done in a similar color palette and style, the manifestation of magic in Handshakers looked a hell of a lot like K's Swords of Damocles. Hell, they even went as far as to reuse character designs and voice actors. Like, tell me that isn't Anna. Tell me that wasn't Mikoto you just saw on screen. I dare you. Hell, the two shows even share a director in Suzuki Shingo. But far from doing Handshakers any favors, the constant connections to the K series may actually have backlashed on Gohans in terrible and unpredictable ways. Because, how do I put this nicely? Handshakers sucks. Or at least, it did by the end of episode, what was it, 4? By the time I dropped that thing? And I'm far from the only one who was disgusted by it. Its attempts at a core cast, a strong principle driving it, and at, well, basically anything else, including a plot, are just second-rate to useless. And honestly, it didn't do anything for me except maybe in the visuals department, which, to be fair, we're still holding to Gohan's standard of excellence. Oh, and I guess the opening's pretty catchy too. Unfortunately for Gohan's, however, the OP wasn't the only thing catchy about Handshakers. That is to say, it got out and it got around. People heard about Handshakers, and not for any positive reasons either. Handshakers quickly became that one really terrible show that aired that season. It became that really bad joke of a flop. And that's where the backlash comes in, because you see, since Handshakers was tied so closely and irrevocably to K, Handshakers' failures and the negative name it brought to Gohan's studio are now also being tied to K and may even be actively dissuading people from picking K up to begin with. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is a problem. Welcome, welcome one and all, I'm Coriander Stone, and today I'm bringing you a video on why you should watch K-Project and skip the hell out of Handshakers. The first and most important piece of the puzzle that I need to touch on is the piece that most people who see Gohan's name attached to both K and Handshakers and decide to judge them by the same standard is missing, and that is that K is not the work of Gohan's, or rather not solely the work of Gohan's. K is a co-authored work between Studios Gora and Gohan's. What the heck is Studio Gora? Great, I'm glad you asked, because if you haven't been following the K series, you've definitely never heard of them. They have worked on one and only one franchise in all of their existence, and that of course is K. Gora is a small team of writers, and honestly I have a hell of a lot of respect for them. The reason for my respect is a very simple one: their dedication to their brainchild. K-Project was their first attempt at a story, or at least attempt at one that was animated. And it did quite well for itself, but they had no way of knowing that going in. So when they first wrote out the original 13-episode run of K's first season, K-Project, the K series had enough keys and loopholes, enough unexplained moments and dangling plot threads to attach a movie in second season, as they later did. It had enough openings in it to plug the next bits of plot right in, and I think it's incredibly clever how they did that, because in so doing they made it clear when they continued the series that K Return of Kings and K Missing Kings are not forced sequels, not in any way, and I actually plan a video on that in the near future. But no, suffice it to say that while it isn't a forced sequel, they also don't leave you with a slap in the face or massive sequel teaser. Like, K was a series I could walk away from just after the original K-Project still thinking I'd enjoyed a really good and complete show. Yes, it was open-ended. Yes, there was a lot of places it could go, and it eventually went there, which I'm very happy about. but they still managed to write it in a way that the ending felt decently satisfying. With an ending set up like this, and the success given to K Project after its original run, it only makes sense that the series would continue, and that's how we got Missing Kings and then later Return of Kings. Missing Kings being the continuation movie, and Return of Kings being a full 13-episode sequel that comes after Missing Kings. But there's a difference between piggybacking on a success and putting in true dedication, and Gora crosses that line way, way back. You see, Gora has done not only the 2 K seasons and the K movie, but has also been responsible directly for every single K manga and light novel that has been published outside of fan work. From side stories and backstories for almost the entire cast, to even coming up with a serialized manga spanning the gap between Missing Kings and Return of Kings. And yes, even continuing the story in K-Dream of Green after the end of Return of Kings. Gora's really put time, effort, and energy into bringing the K-series to life in a way that is fleshed out, vital, and gives context to itself constantly, while never relying on knowledge of the manga to help the audience make sense of the anime. Additionally, Gora has also now announced that K7 Stories, the new anime project they are creating around the K-series, will air next year. 7 Story is going to be a compilation anime of the various side mangas that the series has grown to date, specifically the ones backing the various clans, and it's also going to proceed forward with a new and original story for the anime. Now, why am I making such a big deal out of the size of the K franchise? Well, it's simple. You see, K has gotten really damn popular in Japan. Yes, it's tolerably well known here in the West, but in Japan it's a massively well known hit and success. And that means that Gora could easily have taken the reputation they earned off of K and gone and tried to create other works. But instead they stuck with it, continuing on building out this one world and this one set of characters, disregarding other chances to make a quick buck in order to continue fleshing out a story that they were truly devoted to. And that devotion to the story and the characters is sadly missing from Handshakers, which is just about, well, the quick buck and the fan service. I honestly don't have the first idea what Studio Gohan's was thinking when they decided to come up with a new original creation and link it irrevocably to the K series without first looping in Gora as the writers. I don't know what made them think they had the qualifications it took to continue writing in that vein, or to create something on anywhere near the level of K, and honestly, if you told me that they simply weren't thinking anything, I wouldn't be surprised. That said, I've now spent a lot of time comparing the 2 shows, or at least the 2 studio arrangements that brought about the shows, but I haven't actually really talked about what makes K so good, or why I think it's important that this video be out there so that people don't write K off the same way they're writing off Handshakers. K is a phenomenal series. It takes aspects or elements of anime culture, cliches, and other specific bits of anime, and reincorporates them into a new, original, and fast-paced narrative. I understand that K might have a few small flaws, like the Neko fan service that really bogs down episode 2 of the first season, the way that, I guess it's the 4th, maybe it's the 3rd episode of season 1 starts feeling like it's slower than the others and that the series might be slowing down, which for the record it isn't. It's actually leading off into the real part of the series that speeds up drastically. And yes, the amount of Awashima fan service in the 2nd season is frankly quite annoying. But those are things I honestly describe as minor faults or nitpicks because, in comparison to the rest of the series, they don't ruin it. They don't even come close. It's a show that's fast-paced and full of fantasy aspects, a world of supernatural elements buried within our own, and it's all done to the tune of a murder mystery that is as compelling as it is interesting. The mystery, I guess, really only takes place in season 1, but that doesn't stop it from being every bit as compelling. And the thing is that despite giving you so much of the information you need to solve the thing, they really do manage to blindside you and keep you thinking exactly the wrong thing for the majority of the show. The first season delves into a lot of psychological aspects as main character Yashiro Isana's entire world starts unraveling around him. Additionally, it's also got an incredibly strong core cast throughout the series. Just coming out of it on a first viewing, I'll defy you not to remember details minute and major, and character descriptions for not just lead characters Yashiro, Isana, Kuro Yatagami, and Neko, but also from Homura, Mikoto Suo, Anna Kushina, Tatara Totsuka, Misaki Yada, and Izumo Kusanagi, as well as Sector 4's Reishi Munakata, Sarahiku Fushimi, and Sari Awashima, as well as Jungle's Nagare Hisui, Yukari Mishakuji, Sukuna Gojo, Koto Saka, yes, the parrot, and Iwa, not to mention another incredibly memorable character in The Colorless King. That's 16 core characters with strong and complicated developments, enough so that you will definitely remember them, not to mention a fairly strong side cast of characters like Weissman, Kokujoji, Claudia, Rikyo, and a whole lot more. Kei spends a lot of time pushing at characters' moral boundaries and twisting around the way they looked at the world. Heck, it even does some of the same sorts of things for the audience members, as second season's antagonists, Jungle, turn out to be really great people who have really altruistic goals that are being brought about in a really good way, and yet somehow still end up the bitter enemies of our main characters. It's a show flexible enough in its ways to change up even things like its basic structure and formatting in service of the narrative, while also knowing what's good and not throwing those things away, like the use of tragedy to close out both the first and second seasons. Kei's fun and inventive, and it's also a really damn good action anime. Seriously, some of the fight scenes in Kei are definitely the most beautiful I've ever seen, and that takes into account shows like Kabanari and Fate Stay Night Unlimited budget works. The action is fast-paced, beautifully animated, and skillfully choreographed, and all of it is in service of the narrative and not just time filler. Kei has beautiful animation and a gorgeous soundtrack, 2 great OPs, and an ED that I am firmly convinced is the best anime has ever had to offer. And although its premise, which is a supernatural power being discovered during World War II and people attempting to weaponize it before it ultimately disappears, is far from original to anime, see Full Metal Alchemist Conqueror of Shambhala, Izetta the Last Witch, or the currently airing Fate Apocrypha, the way in which it tackles those ideas, from Weissman's altruism to the way it handles supernatural power in this world, are new and refreshing enough that they don't feel like anything you've ever seen before. And that's what this video really comes down to, and what I really wanted to get out there, which is that Kei is an anime like no other. It's an anime that does things its own way, it's an original work, and does not deserve to be compared to any other show, and especially not tied down by a pandering, fan-servicey lolicon show that is clearly garbage. Okay, maybe Handshakers gets better. I only watched 4 or so episodes before dropping the thing, so I wouldn't really know. But I have no compulsions about saying that I'm probably never going to pick it up again. But just because of all the flaws in Handshakers doesn't mean you should write off K Project.